Welcome back to yet another week of Power Rankings. My name is Hunter, and today we're going to get into the Power Rankings after week number 5. This week we had a couple teams on bye, we had a couple big upsets, we had a couple big losses, big wins. Lots happening around the NFL, but let's get right into it. But before we do that, get me to 250. I'm going to be picking one random viewer to do a video with and talk about their favorite football team. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, share with your friends, and let's get into it. At last in the rankings, I have the New England Patriots, and every week so far, since I think week 2, the team I have in last ends up winning. Maybe that happens for the Patriots, but right now it's not looking great. They have the Texans upcoming on Sunday, and potentially the debut of Drake May. Jacoby Brissett's not been getting it done. This team offensively, not great. They lost to the Miami Dolphins, who have one of the worst offenses in the league, and this Patriots offense is somehow even worse. It's got to get better in New England. They are going to add more pieces in the draft. This year is not their year of competition, but they at least got to get some wins, and right now they're at 32. The momentum of that Andy Dalton Panthers win is starting to fade away. The Panthers are back down to 31, and this team, they got destroyed against the Bears. Offensively, didn't do much. Even Bryce Young got reps at the end of that game, but they were out of it in the first half, and that is not good. This offense could not keep up with the Bears' offense that did not look great until that game. That game was really the first time the Bears' offense did great the entire season, and it happens against the Panthers' defense that needs to play a bit better. But right now, they're at 31. Not much to say about the Tennessee Titans. They were on bye. I did drop them a few spots because a couple teams in this area did win this week. But for the Titans, they have a Colts team that just lost to the Jaguars this week. They can get a big win and get their season back on track. They're going to have Will Levis back at quarterback, it seems, which is questionable. Maybe we'll get another funny image from him. But Titans were on bye this week. They're at 30. The Browns' offense is horrendous. That's all I have to say about that offense. Deshaun Watson needs to go, and Cleveland is definitely going to be probably taking a new quarterback in the next draft because last year proved it. With Flacco, they got it done with that Watson. They didn't really get it done, and that has moved to this year. Defensively, they got exploited by a really good Commanders offense, but I'm not really worried about the defense. It's the offense that worries me, and that side of the football has them at 29. The last team to get their first win this season, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they moved from 32 to 28 this week, and Trevor Lawrence played good football this week. It was the first time he played great the entire season. He had one questionable pick, but outside that, perfect. Tank Bigsby is looking like a great running back for them. He had a long touchdown, and they were able to outduel the Colts and Joe Flacco, which is something we didn't expect out of the Jaguars. And now they'll begin to go on a run. They got that first win. Between this season and last season, they had an 8-game losing streak, and now they have the chance to turn that around. So for the Jaguars, good win this week. They're at 28. The LA Rams are at 27, and they took a close loss to the Packers this week, where the defense looked pretty solid. Among all the injuries that they had, their defense did look pretty good against the Packers. But the offense is still lacking those pieces that are missing. Kyren Williams played well once again, and they had receivers who emerged. But once they get Kupp and Nacua back, this team needs to turn around. They're 1-4. Their season is already beginning to tip the wrong way. And Matthew Stafford is the quarterback that can lead them back to playoff football. They proved it last year. They were 3-6, and they ended up making the playoffs. So Rams, not sold on them being done yet, but they're at 27 right now. As of making this video, Davante Adams has not been moved yet, and that's the biggest storyline with the Raiders. When is he getting moved, and what are they getting in return? for the Raiders this week, without Devontae Adams, they got destroyed against the Broncos. Their offense did not look great. Minshew not looking good. Looking like this Raiders team is going to need to get a new quarterback soon. And this Raiders season is transitional. I believe that Minshew is a transitional quarterback. But for the Raiders, they're currently 2-3, and the season is definitely not lost yet. Defense showed flashes, but obviously not this past week. But this defense is going to need to play a lot better if the Raiders want to go anywhere this season. New York Giants at 25. They get a huge win without Malik Nabers or Devin Singletary this past week. They beat the Seahawks, and big field goal block at the end of the game to clinch it when it looked like they were potentially going to blow that 10-point lead that they had. And the Giants proved that they are not just Malik Nabers' team. They are a football team that can play good football. Defense, solid again. They had one major mistake that made this game close, which was a fumble on the goal line. But Giants, if they figure out a couple mistakes, they could be competitive this season. They have the receiving core to do it. So can they? I don't know. That's why they're at 25. Without Tua, this Dolphins team finally had a lead and finally won a game. They beat the Patriots in a game that was not great. Both offenses looked really bad. Tyler Huntley gets the win for the Dolphins, though, which is huge because considering Tua is potentially going to come back soon, they're going to need all the wins they can have so they have a shot to make the playoffs once Tua comes back. Defense was great. It doesn't matter that it was against a Patriots offense that was not so great so far, but Dolphins finally getting it done. They finally get back into the win column, and they have moved up to 24. The Colts were without Anthony Richardson or Jonathan Taylor, yet they still competed against the Jaguars, but ultimately fell short. They moved down 4 spots to 23 this week, and Flacco did more with this offense in a week than Richardson has seemed to do every game that he played, which is concerning. Because if Richardson is the franchise quarterback of this team, he's going to need to step it up. It seems like he will be returning next week, and so does Jonathan Taylor. They have an opportunity against the Titans to get back to 500, and they need to take that. Defense needs to step it up. They've played pretty bad the entire season, but if the defense and the offense could turn it around a little bit, because it seems like they're in a bit of a down moment for them right now. If they can turn it up, this Colts team is going to be pretty good, but they're at 23 right now. The LA Chargers were on bye this week, but I do move them down 2 spots just because other teams won. And they're 2-2 right now, and they are sitting in an AFC playoff spot in a conference that really only has 4 or 5 competitive teams that could win the AFC. The Chargers can sneak into the playoffs, and they got this bye week. They're going to get Herbert back to full health. He was struggling with the ankle injury before this bye. Joe Alt should hopefully be back for them. But this Chargers team, they are 2-2. Clean slate right now. They play these last 13 games good, and they'll be in the playoffs. But right now, they're at 22. It is a shame that a Joe Burrow MVP season could be wasted on a terrible defense, and that's what's going on with the Bengals. They lost 41-38 this week to the Ravens, which right there, the score proves that this offense is elite, but the defense is not. But the Bengals, they have no offensive problems. It seems like it's all great, but the defense needs to figure it out. They allowed Henry to kind of ice the game on one play, but they also allowed Lamar to pick them apart passing-wise. There is serious improvement needed from the Bengals, and that's why they are at 21. The elite offense that the Saints had in the first 2 weeks is a thing of the past. The Saints are now 2-3. They moved down to number 20 in the power rankings. And the Saints, they did not get it done against the Chiefs. Defensively, not bad from them, but offensively, need to get it done a lot better. Carr throws a pick. that early on that derailed a solid drive to start the game. And that just kind of was a bad omen of what was going to happen. The Saints are now 2-3, and they're playing the Bucs in an important divisional game on Sunday, where this could be a rebound game for Carr, for Kamara, for Shaheed, that entire offense that in the first 2 weeks looked unstoppable. But right now they're at number 20. Jets lose a close game in London where the Jets, that was the end of the road for Robert Saleh in New York. They just fired him today. Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, will be taking over until they announce a new head coach. But the Jets, defensively, they were playing great. Offensively, Aaron Rodgers is leading in a very middle-of-the-pack offense that they could not get it done against a very good Vikings defense. And for Jets ownership, that was the end of the line. They do not want this team to be losing games where they could have easily won early on and going into a huge game with the Bills on Monday Night Football next week. It seems like they wanted a new voice. So Saleh out, Jets at 19 this week. But 2-3, not enough for the Jets so far. The way the Broncos played after the first 2 weeks, I would have never expected they would have had a winning record at all this season. But 3 weeks later, they are sitting 3-2 in an AFC playoff spot on a 3-game win streak. They win a huge game against the Raiders, which they had control pretty much the entire second half and put it much out of reach. But Bo Nix looking a lot more impressive than he did in the first 2 weeks. It seemed like that game against the Bucs turned it around, and they're 3-2. That's, you couldn't ask for much more out of a rookie quarterback that comes into a Broncos system that did not look great, but the offense is looking okay. Defense is looking amazing. The Broncos defense is what could take them to the playoffs, and there is a possibility that could be done. But right now they're sitting at 18. The Arizona Cardinals sit at 17. They get a big win over the San Francisco 49ers, where both teams look pretty good, but the Cardinals come out on top, and that's what they're going to need to do in big games this season to potentially get into the playoffs, because the offense definitely has the pieces to do so. They have another big prove-it game at Lambeau Field this week against the Green Bay Packers, and these wins are going to pile up and help them out. The NFC West is wide open. Seattle, San Francisco, and Arizona can all potentially win it. And Arizona, they have a shot, so they're at 17 this week. The Bears players, after the first couple of weeks, met with their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, and that meeting seemed to work. Their offense exploded in production. Caleb Williams looked really good against the Panthers, and the Bears are 3-2. Their defense is stellar. Their defense takes away the ball a lot, which is great, and their offense seems to be waking up. This Bears team is going to begin to look a lot scary once this offense is woken up, and right now I move them up 5 to 16. The Seattle Seahawks are beginning to lose the steam that they had after the first 3 weeks. They dropped this one to the Giants in a game where it was winnable. They definitely could have won this game over the Giants, and they just had to win. And they're allowing San Francisco and Arizona to get back into that NFC West race, where this game on Thursday night that they have against the Niners is a huge game. If they win that game, they have a 2-game lead over the Niners. But if they lose, it's tied. And a 3-game win streak against 3 mid teams it seemed like it showed a lot, but these 2 last losses have shown that their defense definitely has a couple holes in it, and that's why they're at 15. Pittsburgh played a late Sunday night game against the Dallas Cowboys, but they lose in the last 30 seconds of the game, where they shut down the Cowboys pretty much the entire night, but at the end, they let up a touchdown, and their offense ultimately just didn't do enough. Fields did not look great, but he's going to remain the starter. And the Steelers team is 3-2. They are still looking pretty good, but they have to win these games. They have the Raiders this week, and what seems to be an easier win for them, because if they could shut down an offense that is not as great like the Raiders, their offense seems to do enough to win the game. And that's going to be the story of the Steelers season, and that's how they're going to win games. But right now, they're at 14. The 49ers are one of the most confusing teams in football this year. They go from winning a game where they look great to losing a game where they look not so great. And this has happened multiple weeks in a row. They are now 2-3. Without McCaffrey, it seems like this team is not the same. And the Niners are not looking like the team they were last year that reached the Super Bowl. And things have to change in San Francisco before it's too late, and before these losses in games where they have the opponent down, but they just let them crawl back into it, and the other team ends up winning. It has to stop. They're 0-2 in the division right now, and if they lose to Seattle this week, they've lost to every division opponent, and it's only week 6. So San Francisco at 13. Tampa Bay played an absolute shootout against the Falcons on Thursday night, where they do come out on the losing side, but Baker Mayfield continues to look amazing this season. The offense is obviously still doing great. Mike Evans continues to score touchdowns pretty much every week. And it's just the defense, they let Kirk Cousins feast on them this week. And that just cannot happen if the Buccaneers offense is doing this great, but it's being wasted on performances by the defense, such as this past Thursday. But the Buccaneers still looking great, still looking like a top team in the NFC this season, so they're at 12. The Philadelphia Eagles were on bye this past week, and it was a much-needed bye for them because the week is going to allow their top receiver, A.J. Brown, to come back, which is helpful. They're 2-2 right now, but their next 4 games, they don't play a single team over 500, which is a stretch where the Eagles should win every game. They looked pretty good in their wins, but in their losses, they have looked not so great. So Eagles, they have a stretch where they can pick it up, and they stay at 11. The Bills lose a close game against the Texans, and Josh Allen the first 3 weeks looked amazing, but the last 2 weeks, he's lacked the play. He only had a 33% completion this week, but that's not enough for the Bills to win games. And when they have a glaring receiver problem like they do this year, because they traded Diggs but did not replace him really, the Bills, after starting 3-0 and looking great, they're 3-2, and now problems have arisen in their team. And they have a game against the Jets where if they lose, the Jets have the division lead. So must-win game for the Bills this week. They're at number 10. Dallas is back into the top 10, and even though the win this week did not look convincing, their defense did. The defense was lacking Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, and many key pieces, yet they picked it up and got the win, which is huge. The offense still needs to figure it out. They have a huge game against the Lions this week where if their offense shows up, the Cowboys are looking good again. But in the NFC East, the Commanders are looking great. The Eagles are always a great team. So they're just going to need to pick it up a bit on the offensive side of the ball, but they're back inside the top 10 at number 9. Kirk Cousins is still amazing at football. He throws for over 500 yards in a win in overtime over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Thursday night. And the Falcons, they are looking great. The defense is subpar, but once the defense picks it up, they've shown it in a couple of games this season where they played well, and the offense is finally now picking it up. The Falcons are looking really good, and I think they are a top team. The NFC South is a tough division, and that win last week was huge. So right now, they sit at number 8. The Green Bay Packers win 24-19 over the LA Rams this week, and they move up 3 in the power rankings to number 7. And Xavier McKinney has 5 picks in 5 games, and the Packers couldn't ask for anything more out of their offseason acquisition that they put so much money into. He's playing great. Offensively, the Packers did not play their best this game. They had one long throw to Jaden Reed. Otherwise, that first half was pretty much a disaster. And then Tucker Kraft saved the game in the second half with 2 touchdowns. But once they get Dobbs and Watson back, who were both out this week, Packers offense should look a lot better. And the defense picked it up when the offense was not playing so well, and that's big for them. So I have them at number 7. I have the Washington Commanders at number 6 this week. I'd never expected they would be this high, but they are 4-1. They're in a 4-game win streak, and everything is looking great for the Commanders. They are on top of the NFC East. Jaden Daniels, he continues to play amazing football. Definitely the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year at this point. The defense, they completely shut down the Browns. The Browns only had a garbage time touchdown when it didn't even matter. And the Commanders looking like a top team in the NFC when nobody really expected them to. So they are at number 6 this week. The Texans stay at number 5 this week, even though they get a big win over the Buffalo Bills, where the defense in the first half, amazing. Second half, they shut down when the Bills were coming back. The offense, they got a big touchdown from Nico Collins before he left with an injury, but the offense continues to play well. And Diggs, very key piece of this team. Tank Dell is also playing great. Once they get Joe Mixon back, this offense will be complete. And they are looking like a threat to the Chiefs in the AFC, so they're at number 5. Other really big threat in the AFC is the Ravens. They beat the Bengals 41-38. They come back from 10 down in the fourth to tie it. They get a missed field goal from the Bengals. Henry turns it for a huge run at the end of the game, and Tucker puts it away. And inspired football from Lamar Jackson, from Derrick Henry, from that Ravens offense. The Ravens defense did not have the greatest day, but championship teams, their offense will cover the defense when the defense doesn't play well. And that's what you like to see from the Ravens. They're looking great. They've won 3 in a row, and they're staying at number 4 in this week's rankings. The Detroit Lions were on bye this past week, but they looked great before the bye. They're 3-1 as of right now, and they have the Dallas Cowboys coming up. And the Cowboys are a team that are not looking their greatest right now, and the Lions could get another big win to their resume. They are looking like an amazing team in the NFC in a division that is really good. And this next team is who they are going to have to chase down, but I believe the Lions can do it, and they're at number 3. That team is the Minnesota Vikings. They stay at number 2 this week, and they are playing great football. They are 5-0, undefeated, only undefeated team in the NFC right now. And they get 3 picks off Rodgers. The defense looked amazing again. They pick off the quarterback a ton. They're second in the league in turnovers right now. And the offense, they did lose Aaron Jones in this one. We'll see how his hip is. But going into their bye week, the Minnesota Vikings are 5-0, and that is amazing. They are number 2. Staying at number 1 and getting their first non-one possession win is the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs, they get the 26-13 win on Monday night against the Saints. They are 5-0 going into their bye week. And the Kansas City Chiefs are showing that they could go back-to-back-to-back. They don't have Rashee Rice anymore. They're obviously going to add a receiver at the deadline. And this defense looking great. Offense, they have holes, but that's what they had last year, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So Kansas City at number 1. But that will do it for this week's Power Rankings. If you guys liked it, make sure to like, share with your friends, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week for Week 6's Power Rankings.